What if the person who's been protecting you was someone you barely noticed? What if your quiet neighbor, the one who always smiled, had been keeping a secret that could cost you your life? This is the story of Ada and the man who watched her every day for years, but not for the reason you think. By the time she found out the truth, it was almost too late. Ada moved into the compound after a painful breakup with her ex, Uche. She needed space, peace, a place to breathe. The compound was quiet, 4 flats, a mango tree, a faded blue gate that cracked every time it opened. She liked the silence, no noise, no drama. Her neighbor, Uncle Femi, was the most quiet of them all, always on his porch, playing chess by himself. Sunglasses on, calm. He could nod politely but never talked much. Ada thought nothing of it. To her, he was just another lonely old man. But she was wrong. Ada had no idea that Uncle Femi was the only reason she was still alive. That evening was different. It rained heavily. Thunder shook the window panes. Ada was in bed reading when she heard a loud crash. She rushed outside and found Uncle Femi collapsed behind his chess table. Uncle, uncle, she shouted. Neighbors gathered. Someone called an ambulance. Ada offered to ride with him. She felt guilty. She had lived next to him for over a year and never really knew him. While they were in the hospital, the nurse asked if she was his next of kin. She said no, but when they searched his phone for a contact, there was only one name there saved: Ada. Ada was confused. He barely spoke to her. Why was her name the only one on his phone? The doctor said he had a mild stroke. He would recover. Ada went back to his flat to help find his documents. That was when everything began to unravel. His flat was neat, almost too neat. No photos, no family signs, just a small TV, old books, and a drawer filled with medicine. But in the bedroom, behind the curtains, was a small wall covered in photos. Photos of Ada. Her at her school graduation, her mother's funeral, her crossing the street, even one of her laughing with her ex, Uche. Ada stared at them frozen. How long has Uncle Femi been watching her? Why did he have photos from years ago before they were even neighbors? She rushed out of the room, heart pounding. What is this? Who are you? Back at the hospital, she waited for him to wake up. When he finally opened his eyes, his first words were, "They are coming for you now. I kept you safe for this long. Don't let them find you." Ada sat beside his hospital bed, her fingers trembling. "You said you were protecting me. From what?" Uncle Femi didn't speak at first. He just stared at the ceiling. Then his voice cracked through his dry lips. "Your father wasn't just a driver. He worked for them." Ada's heart skipped. "Them? Who?" he sighed. "The syndicate. The one who adopts children and erases people." He told her things she couldn't process at once. How years ago her father tried to leave the group and was killed. How Ada was supposed to be taken too, but her mother ran. She died a year later, they said, from illness, but it wasn't illness. It was fear. Before her mother passed, she begged a friend, Uncle Femi, to watch over her daughter from afar. Make sure she never get pulled into the darkness her father died escaping. That friend became her neighbor, and Uncle Femi had watched her since then. Back home, Ada locked her doors and shut the curtains. She barely slept. Was he telling the truth? Was her life really a lie? She opened the albums, looked at her father's photos again. His eyes looked kind and tired. That morning, something strange happened. A white envelope was slipped under her door. No name, just a note. "Stop asking questions." Ada froze. She ran to the compound's gate, looked around, but no one was there. She tried to call the police, but how would you report something you don't even understand? That evening, she went to the hospital to tell Femi, but the nurse looked confused. "He was discharged this morning," she said. No, he wasn't. I was just here." The nurse frowned. "Ma, I'm sure. A woman came with a document and took him home." Ada's voice cracked. "What woman?" She said she was his niece. Uncle Femi does not have any niece. Ada then knew that they had him. Ada cried that night. She felt guilty for doubting him, fear for not knowing who she was anymore, and rage at whoever had taken the only person who truly protected her. She opened the box where her mother's belongings were stored: letters, a gold necklace, a faded ID card. Tucked inside the Bible was a torn photograph. It showed her mother and a young Uncle Femi. On the back, in faint ink, for Ada, in case they find me first, trust only him. Ada's tears dropped onto the words. She knew now Uncle Femi wasn't lying. The question was, where was he now? And could she get to him before they erased him too? Because if they took him, she was next. Ada started digging. She went back to the nurse, asked to see the CCTV from the hospital's entrance at first. They refused until she mentioned Uncle Femi's disappearance and a forged discharge. What she saw chilled her: a tall man in a black hoodie and a long scar across his cheek. He wasn't a nurse, not even close. He wheeled Uncle Femi out and a woman followed, face hidden behind dark shades. This wasn't his niece, this was a takeover. Ada took a screenshot and sent it to the journalist she followed online, someone who once investigated child smuggling rings in Lagos. She got no reply, but 2 hours later, her light was cut off. Then she saw a black car parked across the street. No driver, just watching. She realized she had a choice: run like her mother did or fight like her father tried. She chose to fight. She returned to Uncle Femi's apartment. This time, she searched deeper. Inside one of his books, a dusty history novel, was a folded sheet. It looked like a child's drawing. But Ada noticed something strange. It wasn't a drawing, it was a map with small scribble labels. It has some description of drop-off points and shades, and the description of a girl called Amaka. She traced Amaka through the description and finally met with her. Amaka wasn't just real, she was a survivor, now a social worker in Enugu. She had escaped the syndicate as a teen. Ada met her at night in a small canteen behind the motor park. Amaka wore a scarf and didn't stay long. She confirmed it all. The syndicate had reached. They tracked orphans, used fake foster homes, trained girls and boys as smugglers, couriers, even spies. Your father was one of them, Amaka said, until he tried to get you and your mother out. That's why they erased him. Amaka didn't know where Femi was, but she gave Ada a burner phone with a preloaded number. If he's still alive, this will ring once, only once. Ada left with her heart pounding. She pressed the number, it rang once, then a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have called." The map led Ada to the outskirts of Port Harcourt, a rusted shade near an abandoned petrol station. The place smelled of wet dust and danger. She waited until nightfall. Inside, it was empty until she saw the flickers of cigarettes, and the man with a scar stepped out from the shadows. "You're just like him," he said, "too curious, too stubborn." Ada tried to run, but another man blocked the exit, threw her into a room, inside a weak, barely conscious Uncle Femi. He whispered, "You shouldn't have come," but Ada shook her head. "You didn't leave me, I won't leave you either." What the men didn't know was that Ada wasn't alone. Amaka had called the journalist, the one Ada tried contacting. She had shared everything: photos, name, coordinates. Help was coming. But inside the shade, time was running out. Femi motioned Ada to look at the floor beneath them. Under the loose wood, hidden, was a small phone. They waited until the guard stepped out. Ada used the phone. One button sent a distress signal to the journalist contact, an anti-trafficking task force. Minutes felt like hours. Then, boom, a blast shook the compound. Doors burst open. Gunshots, flashlight. The guards were arrested. Ada grabbed Femi's arm and pulled him out into the open. Weeks passed. Ada and Femi were relocated to a safe town under protection. The syndicate's Port Harcourt branch was exposed with Ada's help. The journalist's report sparked a national outcry. Rescued children spoke out. Raids happened across multiple cities. Uncle Femi, once quiet and forgotten, became a voice for survival behind the scene. Ada returned to school studying law. She wore her mother's necklace daily, a symbol of strength, of memory, and of a past she refused to run from. One morning, she sat beside Femi on a couch of their new home. chessboard between them. You never told me how you learned chess, she smiled. Uncle Femi chuckled and said, from your father. It wasn't about winning, it was about staying in the game long enough to make one last move. They played in silence. But now, Ada wasn't just a piece on the board, she was a player, and the game had just begun. Some battles are fought in shadows, and some truths are buried in time. But in the end, it's not the lies that breaks us, it's the love that keeps us standing. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories. Thanks for watching.